Finance House welcomes you. Before we begin, let me reveal a truth most people overlook. In 2026, success will rarely come from predicting the future. It will come from understanding the past, because every crisis, every boom, every collapse, and every rise has already happened in some other century, to some other empire, to some other generation. Today, we are diving deep into the psychology of long-term success, using the mindset of historians rather than the mindset of fortune tellers. While everyone else waits for signals on social media, the people who quietly win are the ones who study patterns in silence. They learn how societies behaved when things felt uncertain, and how ordinary citizens transformed confusion into advantage. This isn't about investing money. It's about investing attention, discipline, and foresight. Think like a historian who refuses to be surprised by anything because they've seen everything before, through the eyes of previous civilizations. When we talk about 2026, we're not just talking about a year. We're talking about a crossroads that mirrors ancient turning point moments, when the world shifted so fast that the unprepared froze and the prepared advanced without panic. This pattern repeats, from the Roman inflation cycles to the Dutch trading boom, from the industrial age revolutions to the tech shocks of the modern century. If you can see these rhythms, you start recognizing that what looks like chaos is usually just phase one of a transformation. The people who benefit aren't the loud ones. They are the ones who pay attention to the big, repeating human behaviors that never change throughout history. The biggest mistake modern people make is thinking they are living in a brand new era, when in reality, the same psychological rules have guided human decision-making for thousands of years. This is why historians often understand the world better than financial analysts. Historians track behavior, not numbers, and behavior is what moves everything, from markets and elections to innovations, collapses, and recoveries. When you combine this historian mindset with modern awareness, you create the 2026 success formula. It's simple. You win not by reacting, but by recognizing timeless patterns long before others even notice them. Back in the 1700s, people panicked during global trade disruptions, convinced the world economy was falling apart. Historians today can tell you that their behavior perfectly mirrors the fear cycles we see in every modern recession. This means the real advantage in 2026 is emotional intelligence, not predictions. Those who understand how humans respond to pressure can navigate decisions with calm. This was exactly how many families in the 1930s managed to stabilize their lives despite global chaos. They stayed grounded in long-term thinking instead of chasing short-term noise. When you look at the world today, you might think uncertainty is brand new. But the truth is, we've been here before, many times. Each cycle teaches the same lesson. The calm thinker always outperforms the panicked crowd, not because they know more, but because they understand that fear is temporary and structure is permanent. This historical awareness is what turns average minds into strategic minds in every single era. Imagine a young person watching newspapers in 1907 when banks were collapsing and adults around them were terrified. A small minority quietly studied older financial panics from the 1800s. They recognized that the cycle would stabilize just as it had before. That understanding helped them stay patient and build long-term opportunities later in life, without rushing into mistakes driven by fear. The same thing happened during the oil crisis of the 1970s. People who had studied global energy history realized that shortages and spikes always follow a predictable cycle tied to political conflict, supply shocks, and global demand shifts. This historian mindset kept them from falling into emotional decisions that hurt others who didn't understand the cycle. This is the same skill you need in 2026. Not to invest money, but to invest in pattern recognition. Because once you see how predictable human behavior is, you begin to operate at a different level than the crowd. Human behavior repeats in loops. Historians have names for these loops: cycles of optimism, cycles of fear, cycles of innovation, cycles of correction, and cycles of rebuilding. In each era, the winners weren't the ones with the most resources. They were the ones who recognized which phase they were living in. This is why the adults who succeed in 2026 will usually be those who understand which cycle fits the present moment. They see the world through long-term eyes, not through the panic of the moment. When you begin to think like a historian, you develop a clarity, a grounding, and a discipline that protects you from emotional misjudgments, and that is what creates advantage. Not shortcuts, not predictions, not risky moves. Just perspective. The year 2026 will feel overwhelming to millions of people. Global shifts are happening faster than ever. Technology is evolving at a speed similar to the Industrial Revolution. Supply chains are shifting similarly to post-war periods, and political polarization is rising in patterns identical to previous transitional decades. But when you study these parallels, you realize that 2026 isn't an unpredictable storm. It's simply a modern version of an old historical turning point. And once you understand that, you stop fearing the noise and you begin focusing on long-arc decisions, the kind historians admire, and the kind successful adults rely on to build stable futures for themselves and their families. Thinking like a historian in 2026 means stepping back, analyzing behavior trends, studying past patterns, and refusing to be hypnotized by short-term panic. Nothing clouds judgment more than fear, and historians know that fear has destroyed more civilizations than war itself, because fear blinds people to opportunities that are often right in front of them. When you embrace the historian mindset, you stop reacting to headlines. You start recognizing that every headline today has an ancestor somewhere in the timeline of humanity. Understanding this gives you resilience, calm, and strategic thinking that will shape your decisions for years to come. And that is the hidden point of today's message. Your success in 2026 will not depend on luck. It will depend on perspective. The people who rise are always the ones who understand that history is the greatest teacher. No matter how modern the world becomes, human psychology remains ancient and predictable. Once you master this mindset, you create your own version of the 2026 success formula where you navigate life with clarity, confidence, and long-term vision. Just like the historians who study the past, not because it's old, but because it is the blueprint for every future, including yours. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more.